Welcome to the Business of Music. I'm Jan Hall from Folk Roots Radio.
And I'm Gary Glass from Quantum Sound Productions.
The Business of Music is a new video and audio podcast dedicated to all aspects of the music business and helping musicians make headway in a rapidly changing business environment.
And you can find us on YouTube. Click to subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and you can find us also the podcast on SoundCloud and wherever podcasts are found.
So coming up today, we're pleased to welcome into the studio two young musicians, Crissi Cochrane and Mike Hargreaves, who are working on their own music careers while juggling their family. They're also life partners, and so we're going to have a great opportunity to chat with them about how they manage their life and their music. So it's great to have you join us, Crissi Cochrane and Mike Hargreaves. You know, the thing I love about you is that you're lovable people, but also the fact that you make music as individuals, but you also share your lives together. You now have a family, I think. Is that right?
That's right. Yes, we have a daughter who's almost a year old now.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's great. I'd like to turn the clock back as we start this interview, because I know, Crissi, you grew up in Nova Scotia.
That's right.
You basically started your music in Halifax, and then in 2010 decided to head down to Windsor.
Yeah.
Now, remind us why you chose Windsor.
Well, I had known about Mike and his band Mishu for a couple of years. They had been playing in Halifax pretty often, and my roommate was booking their gigs at the time. So pretty much every time they came through, I would end up playing the show with them, and they'd crash at our place and fight with my cat. And so I figured someday I should go and visit them in Windsor. And it was around the time, too, that Fog had just been named the best independent music venue in Canada by CBC Radio 3. So I thought, like, Windsor, you know, it was kind of like, it was a scene that was really up and coming. And I thought that'd be a cool place to go play at Fog Lounge and do some co-writing with Mike from Mishu. And didn't even know that Windsor was next to Detroit until the bus was coming down Olette and I saw the two skylines. And I was like, wait a minute, Windsor is a really huge city. And then I realized, no, that's Detroit right there. So
they're on the other side of the river too.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of me falling in love with Windsor and discovering all that it had to offer and totally coming in blind and having no idea. Nothing. All I knew was Mishu and Fog. That's it.
So I have to ask, were you dating when you made the decision?
No. When I decided to move here, yeah, we were dating.
Okay.
But when I first came down, I was like, no, I just want to come and hang out. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mike, Mishu?
Yes.
Walkervilles?
Mishu was a band that we did folk music from around 2007 to 2011-ish. And that's how I met Crissi. And I was really into going out to Halifax and seeing what the East Coast of Canada had to offer for music. I loved all the stops out there and the culture out there. And then I think for Crissi coming to Windsor, she didn't really realize how much music we actually have in this city and how much there is to check out. Mm-hmm. And even for myself, just growing up in this city, I was realizing even more and more how deep the roots go here. And so we were kind of both discovering it, even though I was already from the area.
Well, I have to say, I saw Mishu in 2010 at Hillside, and you probably don't remember, but I was so enthusiastic after seeing your set. I think it was in the lake tent at Hillside. I went straight up to the merch tent to pick up my copy of the CD.
I don't think there was a unenthusiastic day in Mishu's entire career. That whole group, the entire time we were together, it was extreme smiles from ear to ear. So.
And then after Mishu, it was the Walkervilles?
Yeah, after Mishu, there was about a year in between Mishu and starting the Walkervilles, which was a trio from Windsor that played soul rock. And we were around from around 2012 to 2015. Not very long, but we had a good splash while we were at it and did some cross-Canada traveling and playing music in all different kinds of venues and getting to experience some of the music business in Canada.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, you decided to, did the Walkervilles, was it a decision of the band just to fold and go your separate ways?
We kind of ran out of creative juices in terms of like a group and knowing what to do as a project that way, but we all wanted to continue doing music, so we're still all playing music. I took another year off between that project and starting another project. So right now I'm working on The Family Soul, which is my latest endeavor, and it's a large group. It's 6 to 13 people, so it can kind of vary in size, but generally considered a big band. We have horns.
Well, you got horns and
Backup singers.
Yeah. So it's a lot of coordinating, but it's a lot of fun.
And your stage name, is that still Soul Brother Mike?
Yeah, I go by Soul Brother Mike, and then the Family Soul. Those are the kind of the two main brands. And Crissi Cochrane, of course. So those are my brands right now.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'm a sucker for horns in any band. Put horns in a band, that's wonderful. Now, Crissi, I mean, you have really developed a great career as an individual since moving.
Yeah.
We had you do a wonderful session. I think, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago here? Sunparlour Coffee House session.
3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, 2.5.
Head to sunparloursessions.com and you can check out sessions with both Crissi Cochrane and Soul Brother Mike.
Mm-hmm.
You've done really, really well though with your style. I mean, that with the playing the wonderful Jaguar guitar.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about getting started in your music.
Yeah.
Because your music is fairly unique because of the way that you play. I mean, it's very spare instrumentation typically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I started out playing such a different style of music, and then I cut my teeth on a totally different style. And then I came around to doing jazz. Like in the very beginning, when I was playing my first shows, I was growing up in like an alternative punk kind of scene. So all the shows I was playing were punk shows. And I was doing a lot of just like more aggressive acoustic guitar style, I guess. And then I moved to Halifax because that was sort of the epicenter of the music community for me at the time. And it's very much like a singer-songwriter mecca there. So it was there that I kind of honed my ability to tell stories in my songs and make people cry with my songs. That was like one of my badges of honor, being able to really convey a lot of emotion and do so in this kind of like a folkier style, very different from what I had been doing where I grew up. And then coming to Windsor, I connected a lot with jazz and soul and Motown and blues and music that I had heard every now and then when I was a kid, mostly just from my grandfather's record collection, and rediscovered it in Windsor and decided that is the kind of music that I want to play. Stuff that's kind of, taken from that era of music.
But the Fender Jaguar, where did you just pick that up one day and said, hey, this is, because there's a lot of style about your performing. And I think that comes through when we watch your videos, which have done very well.
Oh, thanks. Well, the guitar came from my dad, actually.
Okay.
So I grew up seeing that guitar all the time. It was in a closet in the basement, not being played. It needed a little bit of work. So that was Dad's excuse for tucking it away. And I used to take it out when kids from the neighborhood were around, and I'd be like, my dad used to be a rock star. Look at this super sweet guitar. And then I played acoustic guitar for many, many years. And then when I started playing with a band, I realized it'd probably be better to have an electric guitar. It'll just carry better over the sound of a band. So I told my dad I was thinking about switching over to electric, and he said, would you like one of my guitars? And I said, yes. Can I have the Jaguar? And he said, sure. So he got it fixed up and mailed it to me, and two of us were biting our nails, making sure that it came in okay and didn't get damaged in transit or lost or something. And then it kind of became my baby, having this beautiful guitar to play.
Well, and I think it's developed a signature sound, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's that kind of vintage electric, nice and clean.
Mm-hmm. I don't use a lot
it sings out really well. You know, I know Mike played it when he was here too, and finds that there's a lot of buttons on it.
Oh, yes.
So many switches, but it has such a nice warm tone. Like of any guitar I've ever played, that Jaguar has a really warm sound.
Mm-hmm.
So when you play, most of the time, you play solo, or you play with Mike, or as part of the family soul?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I play it pretty much just solo, but I do have band gigs sometimes. Like sometimes I'll have Mike join me on bass, or Keith Wilkinson, who's the bassist of the Family Soul. If Mike and I can't both be out, which sometimes happens, having a baby, sometimes you can't get a sitter. Sometimes I have an alternate bass player. And then Taylor Eunice, the drummer of the Family Soul, he backs me up as well. So those gigs are really fun. But most of the time, I'm mostly solo. Yeah.
Your recorded work, I think Little Sway was 2014.
Yeah.
But since then, you've been working more on playing with singles and things?
Yeah, I did put out a Christmas EP, and I put out one single, Sweet and Fine, and I've been working on an album for so long, but it's finally coming together now. I think it's just because we were producing it in-house, and still kind of like acquiring more gear and learning how to mix better. And even things like writing arrangements for songs that just start out as guitar and vocal. It's such a big task. So it's taken us a long time, but now we're finally starting to see the songs come together, and it's really exciting.
So you talk about the we, and you kind of mentioned that, Crissi Cochrane being part of, what do you say, one of the brands?
Yes. Well, because I contribute a lot of work to Crissi's material, especially this new album that's going to be coming out. It's been many, many, many hours, mostly in arranging, like Crissi's talking about. I've never done such large arrangements before, because they'll contain maybe 5 horns and 3 string parts or 4 string parts, and sometimes the instrumentation can get so lush, and we still haven't even recorded a lot of it. A lot of it's just been charted out with MIDI and things to get all of the ideas there, and from there we put it into actual paper and ink charts that we have session musicians come in and play. So it's just a lot of steps, a lot of music, but I can't wait for the final product. There's just so many really cool melodies and sort of new feelings that Crissi's exploring on this album that I really haven't heard in other recorded music at all. It's very different, very powerful.
That's good to hear from my producer. Yeah.
So you must have I don't know, it's like it could get confessional here, but must have a pretty good relationship between the two of you, because you have like separate careers but also connected careers, and my sense is that actually it's getting more connected.
Absolutely.
Is that the way they think it moves forward?
It's funny because when I first came to Windsor to write songs with Mike, I didn't write songs with Mike because I realized that was super intimidating. And actually, we didn't do any music together pretty much until The Family Soul came around like 2 years ago. We were very much distinct, had our separate things. And every now and then, maybe we would kind of harmonize on one another's songs, but very much we left each other's songwriting to each other. We didn't really share a whole lot, aside from saying like, oh, maybe you could change this word here or try this melody, like very little minor adjustments. But I don't know.
Then I know in the general public, people would always look at you two guys and go, why don't they play together?
That happens so much. And we'd say like, well, we do at Christmas time, because like there were so many Christmas duets that were really easy. But people were always asking us when we're going to play together.
Of course, we're finally ready when we have a child now.
Yeah.
So now it's impossible to be in the same place.
Oh.
So it's probably quite good that the album has had a long gestation.
That's true.
With having the family and it's bringing things together. Your daughter, I think, is a year old now.
Yeah, she'll be a year old in 2 weeks.
So you're probably settling into some sort of family groove that allows time for music.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she is pretty good at playing by herself a lot too. So most of the time, one of us is working on something musical, or she's in the room and just listening while we play music. Or I don't know. It surprisingly isn't as difficult as you might think to manage our lifestyles with a child. Somehow it's working.
You say that, and at the same time, I'm inclined to slightly disagree. It doesn't seem like time taken away because you enjoy it so much, I think is what it is. So when we're spending time with our daughter, I'm not thinking about the music time that I'm missing out on. I'm just totally enjoying my time with her. But Crissi's also right. We have found ways to sneak away and still be very productive musically. But it has been more so in the past couple months than right away. All those adjustments right away, obviously, kind of.
Yeah, it's a learning process too. And since she'll be around the music so much, it's going to be such a distinct part of her life that she won't even think twice about you sitting down with a guitar or you sitting down with a guitar and playing. They'll just be there.
She has so many music toys already. She loves shaking the tambourine, and she's got 2 guitars already. And, she's on her way for sure.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to, when people ask you, like, how old were you when you started playing guitar? I don't think she's going to be able to remember how old she was when she started playing.
It'll be, well, they told me that I played when I was.
Exactly.
Getting the adjustment down, it sounds like you really adjusted to the family. Mm-hmm. It sounds pretty exciting, this new album. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be something really special.
I think the biggest thing for us is being able to record ourselves now. It's something that we've worked on for a long time, getting the equipment together. As you, of course, know, Gary, it's there's a lot of things to consider purchasing, and we finally have the basics that we can get what we need done and recorded. We can mix stuff ourselves, but I know Crissi plans to outsource some of that. But
give you a bit of a break.
yeah, but we're on our way to getting our own, like working on our own projects, and it's nicer because then we can take our time with them. We're not worried about like, oh my God, we're paying $1,000 a day to be here, so we have to, really hope it turns out well today. Mm-hmm. If we have a day that doesn't work out so well or someone's tired, we can just cancel halfway through, and it's not a financial burden on us to do that. So it makes the next stuff a lot more comfortable. There's a lot of feet up on the table.
But you have to keep at it.
Yeah,
you have to keep that in the back of your head, like, I can't take today off because I took yesterday off too.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
you have to keep going at it to make sure you get it out.
The one thing that works well for me on that level is that I'm not really a perfectionist. So I'm always almost too quick to release things. That's why I have like 30 albums out. It's just, I'm just happy to be doing it and putting stuff out there and moving on and not overthinking it too much. That's for my own music, at least. For Crissi, it's maybe a little different. She's more detail oriented.
I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Yeah,
she's more detail oriented than
it takes
me.
one perfectionist, one
right.
maybe not so much.
We'll be like a sweet spot in the middle. Yeah.
So, moving from, I think you were just the two of you living in an apartment. I think you now have a house.
That's right. Yeah.
You have a car. You have a baby. How do you manage to make ends meet? Are you both able to gain enough through your music to make sure all the bills get paid?
Yeah, there's like so many different avenues for making money in music. So at any point in time, it could be royalties that we're making a lot of, or we're performing a lot and getting a lot of performance fees, or maybe even like subsistence grants. Sometimes they can help cover the costs of living while you're working on a piece of art. So somehow we just manage to make ends meet. It's kind of a surprise all the time because it seems like at one point some of us or one of us should get a job maybe, but somehow it just keeps working out.
Well, Mike, you work like a part-time thing with what, CBC?
That's right. I backfill at CBC, so like a substitute tech there.
But I get to see the back of your head on TV once in a while.
Right.
That's right. Try to wear a hat when I can to cover that up. But no, so I don't think that's strange to like most millennials too, just having a bit of a precarious lifestyle where you're kind of taking money from a couple different jobs, or you're walking dogs on the side or whatever. We're not doing that, but I mean. There's a lot of different ways that we can kind of pull in an income, and we do it so in like 3 or 4 different ways, and somehow it seems to connect. And for sure, sometimes we're really thinking about what every dollar we're spending, and other times we can go and buy things without thinking about it.
Sure.
It just kind of flows.
And Crissi, you have some success on Spotify.
Actually, that's why I have a house, because of Spotify. That was how I was able to make my down payment, was money that I saved from
Because so many musicians are not happy with the whole streaming thing, but I think, I don't want to certainly belittle anything you do, but you got a certain amount of luck to get into these playlists.
Absolutely.
And that's how, that's what you got to do. I mean, if you get in those lists, well, I mean, obviously, you know a lot better than I do. That helps out the payout of whatever it is, the small 0.004 cents a play or something.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's a fraction of a cent for every play.
Yeah.
And I know it's such a crapshoot. You never know if you're going to be having 10 monthly listeners or 10,000 monthly listeners. I don't even know how they make the selections for those Spotify playlists, but to me, it just seems like if you can keep releasing music often, then you kind of have more chances of maybe something getting added to a playlist. But yeah,
and that's one of the discussions we keep having with people that come in. It's like, do you wait and put out an album, or do you put out singles or EPs or what, to keep the ball rolling?
Based on Crissi's success, I almost would say maybe it doesn't matter, because her success was so unpredictable. It was a song that was deep on her album, was like track 8, and it's 7/4 time or something, or the time signatures change. It's not a song that you'd think, oh, this is going to connect and really become a big financial maker for me. It just happened to. And I think that's a lot of the way that I look at the music industry too, or even like fame or popularity. All those things is it's not even up to you.
No.
It's totally up to the listeners out there. And like Crissi's saying, if you just put stuff out there, you hope that, and you'll never know what it will be that will connect or might connect. So,
This is Pretty Words, right?
Yes, that's Pretty Words.
I think you've got 14, 15 million streams.
I haven't checked
now?
in a while. Last time I checked, it was like 12 million. And then
Okay.
it had kind of spilled over into some of the other tracks that I have on Spotify. So I think if you combine it all, maybe there's like 15 million.
Right.
That's such a big number.
Well, and it's actually kind of encouraging when you say, well, it paid for the down payment on my house.
Yeah.
It's kind of, that gives hope to people.
Well,
for sure,
I mean, it's a fraction of a cent, but if 12 million times people stream your
But it makes me feel a little uncomfortable as well, because, I've heard stories about, that apparently, like Spotify can be gamed, that there are ways and means of getting people to get you into playlists now. Like there are people who are focusing on, speaking to the editorial staff at the streaming people, not just Spotify,
right,
to try and get people in. But when you got in, it was just because somebody said, hey, that's a really cool song, which it is.
Yeah, I didn't even know.
And it fitted perfectly.
I didn't even know that it had happened. I got so used to never making any money on my digital distribution. I wasn't even checking to see if I had any money waiting for me. And I just happened to have a friend saying like, oh, you should get Spotify, because I wanted to be a member of a music platform. Like I wanted, because we used to be with RDO and then they wanted a business. And I was like, okay, well, who should we sign up with? So a buddy was like, oh, you should do Spotify. And I said, I think I have a profile on Spotify. Let's pull it up. And that's when I saw the Pretty Words already had 3 million listens at that point. I was like, whoa, what is happening? How did this,
I'm famous and didn't even know it.
Exactly. So I nosed around and I realized, okay, it was in this really popular playlist that has 1 million subscribers. And that's why it's getting all this traction. But I didn't have any idea that it was even happening. Just completely unbeknownst to me.
So it sounded like things, with serendipity that made things happen.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now and the fact that, you've got a new album that you're working on, the likelihood is that you'll probably decide to pick a few tracks that can become singles that you can promote individually, and they will go out first before the album.
I never know whether to do that or not, because I like the tidiness of it just being one album rather than being like this kind of like pre-release thing that maybe I have to pull down to put up the other one. I'm not really sure. I probably would just release it all at once. Even knowing that I would be better off releasing things individually. I think that going forward, I am probably going to have more of a singles-minded approach to releasing my music, because some of the artists that we love are doing that. And it seems so much more current to be putting out a single every 3 months.
Because it keeps, especially when we start to talk about social media, it keeps you in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
I have people that for radio now, that will say, they actually won't give me anything but the single. Or I had somebody say, well, you can get 3 tracks now, and then there'll be some more music coming later. From a radio person's point of view, because it's like, oh, well, I want to hear the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it does make a lot of sense to try and do things that way.
Mm-hmm.
What would you suggest for people who are, they've got a song that they really like, and do you have any thoughts on what you would suggest people do?
You mean like as an artist trying to?
Yeah, as an artist trying to, embracing streaming. I don't know how you got on Spotify and the other streaming agencies at the time. Did you use a service like TuneCore or something?
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, I was with TuneCore, and then I switched to Mondo Tunes just because it was saved me a couple bucks a month. And actually, that was when I pulled it down. I had to pull it down from Spotify and all those platforms, which kind of sucked. But then when it went back out again, that's when Spotify noticed it, and it ended up getting put in that playlist. So it's kind of funny how that worked out. But I think if an artist has a song that they really want to release, I would say just do it, put it on Spotify. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, I feel like to a certain extent, it's still nice to have albums in your discography. Like, I think it's really nice to have a good bulk of music, at least when you're getting started. And then maybe putting out more like little individual singles is kind of a nice kind of way to keep it rolling, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
As a fan, I like albums.
Yeah.
I like to listen through a lot of songs, but I also program music for CBC. So I understand the music programming side of things with radio, where it's nice to have a new reason to play you. So if you are releasing something new every couple months, it allows people who are maybe on that side of the desk to have a new reason to play you or to play that new song anew in. So I see kind of both sides of it.
Well, I think it's like the true fan wants more, wants the album.
Mhm.
The, regular casual listener, well, a song will do, and then maybe I'll hear another one, couple months. That works fine. But true people who really love the music, they want more. They want the album, and especially, not so much anymore, but concept albums. I mean, you can't do it except for doing the whole album, right?
Mhm.
I mean, could you imagine Pink Floyd The Wall just releasing 2 songs or something?
I know it in a way, just a single almost feels like a trailer for a movie.
Yeah, it's like
Whereas
more
an
coming.
album is
Yeah.
the movie, right? So if you're only putting out trailers all the time, I think as a fan you go, okay, when are we going to get the full length?
Yeah.
When are we going to get the full story? To feel those lows and highs. When it's just a single, it's kind of there's less context to.
Yeah, it's like possibly just one emotion versus the whole story, like you say,
Mhm.
for sure.
What about that whole idea of when you create your music, making it as streaming friendly as possible? That I know when we've done this before, Gary would always say, like on a video, you have to grab people's attention really quick. I have definitely hearing what I like to call the Spotification of music now, where people will put out a single and they're really, I mean, it's like boom. I mean, it's not quite the wall of sound, but you really feel like they're really making an effort to grab you as quick as possible. Is that something that you notice? I mean, you mentioned that, you programming music at the CBC as well as obviously being involved in
I think it's just
Crissi's
thinking
career.
it's the thing about those different markets of where do you kind of see your music fitting. And I mean, I never knew for my own music. I only learned through putting it out there and kind of seeing what came back towards me. So a lot of music that I've done has kind of geared towards morning radio. So I've kept that in mind now moving forward. Okay, I'll keep in mind that that's one of the markets that's kind of been friendly to me. But apart from kind of knowing that already about your sound, I think just thinking of it from just an artistic standpoint, just putting out the best music that you can, and then kind of learning from there, and then finding your way, rather than trying to do it the other way around, where you really try to fit in. Like, so I've seen a lot of new bands where they start off in their first singles like kind of this club song where they're talking about meeting a girl in the club, and they might not realize that they're actually a band that's really well suited to morning radio, and their late night club song doesn't work on morning radio for their sound. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to think about that, where you might end up, and is just your music or are your lyrics more specifically appropriate for that spot that you're being played in.
Does that mean that you can write music with the market in mind? I mean, you've been, with Meet You was, like you said, was more folky based. Then
So for example, with Mishu, a very folky based band, very, very morning radio friendly. And I was a dumb 20-year-old. I always wanted to put an F word in the song or something. And we had a manager at the time. He's like, "You dummy, don't put a F word in the middle of this song that's perfect for like the morning drive at 7 a.m. No, you're going to cut all the wind from your sails if you add that one word. Don't do it, And those types of tips slowly sink in with you going, oh, maybe I shouldn't put that F-bomb in, good morning song that I've written here. So,
it's interesting because to me, it seems like things are really, going back to the days of the 50s and 60s and 70s where, radio, I mean, it was radio in those days, but, everything was singles focused. Does it feel to you like this is where we're heading back, that everything's now around the big song again? I'm curious about the CBC connection here. I want to get to that in a second, but is that where you see things are going?
I don't know. It could be. I mean, people's attention spans maybe aren't quite as long as they used to be, or the pace at which new music comes into and leaves focus is so quick that singles really would facilitate that, just more of this, that, I don't know. But I feel like I still, at my heart, I want to make albums, like you're saying, you need to have all these emotions to tell the story. You need more than just one facet. I feel like, and it is like a trailer, you want the whole movie. So I don't know. For me, like, To be honest, I don't even listen to all that much new music these days, so I don't know exactly what everyone else is doing. Mike is much more in tune with that, being at CBC all the time, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've felt a shift away from corporate music in the past decade. I feel like there was a time in the 90s and 2000s and things where music was very corporately produced with the big labels kind of dominating everything that you're hearing. And I feel like they're kind of losing their grasp on the music industry and it's becoming a lot more independent, which was what it was in the 60s and before then. So I think that's really exciting. And all of my favorite artists are completely independent. We're completely independent. There's room for that. There's room for you to be that. I feel like when I was just getting started, everyone was kind of breaking out with, if you got in an Apple commercial or if you got in a Walmart commercial or things like that. And I'm hearing a lot less about that type of way of breaking out as an artist. I'm hearing a lot more of getting in a Spotify playlist or just having a YouTube video that's successful or essentially your content becoming popular through independent means rather than being forced on an audience through a commercial or something.
What about getting your music into TV or film? I think you've succeeded that way, haven't you?
Yeah. So I have a couple of licensing companies that are out there kind of shopping my songs to put in film or television, wherever it's appropriate kind of thing. It's nice to have that in your back pocket. Like, it's nice to have that extra little, opportunity for revenue. Sometimes something will come through there and you'll be like, great, like this is a good opportunity. A bunch of people are going to hear my music on this TV show and I get to get a little bonus on the side. It's nice. Yeah.
I'm curious about the CBC programming. I've heard people complaining, people who are musicians feeling like it's harder to get played on CBC than it used to be. I mean, as somebody, can you just talk a little bit about what
Absolutely.
your role is from that point of view?
Sure.
Now?
So every day that I work there, I pick 5 songs to be played the next day. We might not play all 5 because, we have a lot of live interviews and things that would make it so that sometimes they get cut. But it's... apart from that limitation of they don't necessarily play a lot of music on Radio 1, there's no barriers. I play a lot of different music. I pick, apart from we do have CanCon rules, so everything that we play is Canadian content. But apart from that, no, there's a lot of freedom for me as a music programmer. I can play really anything Canadian I want, and I do, as long as it's clean and morning friendly. And I like to play a lot of diverse stuff on there. Every programmer is different, but I'll play anything from country and bluegrass to R&B and rock and roll. A good song is a good song.
And I guess if people have a gig coming up or it's a new album, that's more likely to get them played.
Absolutely. Like you're always looking for little reasons. Why are we playing this today? So sometimes you can get away with, here's just an upbeat song for your Thursday or whatever. But it is nice if there's a reason for you to be playing that. And so I have seen that with album releases, even putting out 1 or 2 singles before the whole bulk of the material does allow for at least 1 or 2 opportunities, different opportunities for your name to kind of come up in media circles and give them a reason to play you. So I think as we've been talking about that it is that delicate balance of you need to release maybe a little bit of a tease, maybe release 1 or 2 trailers and then release the movie. Don't release 10 trailers,
Right. So when you program at CBC, you program just for Windsor, or do you program for
just for the Windsor morning program with Tony Doucette? So just for that specific program, yeah.
Because I heard people saying that it used to be that there was more of a centralized system of
yes,
CBC.
So sometimes we'll get Toronto, or I'm not sure if this works for the whole country this way, but we'll get suggestions. So every day, Toronto will send out 1 or 2 suggestions so that if you're really stuck on what to play, they'll give you an idea. Or it might be connected to who they have on cue that day. So they say, hey, we're having Bare Naked Ladies on cue. Here's their latest song. So that if everyone in the country wants to play a Bare Naked Ladies song and promote Q, they can. Or you can totally ignore it and just play local music. Or I always try to play lots of local music when I'm there, at least 1 of the 5, if not more. But
so, and if people want to get their music onto the CBC, how should they do that?
You can email Windsor Morning at cbc.ca. So Windsor Morning.
Nice plug.
Yeah, Wednesday morning at cbc.ca. So I would get that email. The producers of the show would get that email. Host of the show, everyone on the team gets that email. So, and everyone loves music on that whole show. So anyone could be your connection to getting your song heard.
There used to be a library in Toronto that you could send your physical CD to, and then from there it would go.
Yeah,
out
that's
everywhere.
what I heard.
I don't know if they're still doing that anymore. I thought I heard that they had been kind of.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Taking apart that library.
They do have it's funny, I'm talking so much about CBC. I hope I'm allowed. But they do have like an internal sort of library of music that's all digital. And so if you're interested in getting your music in that library, I'm sure you could reach out to anyone at CBC and ask that it be added. And specifically music programmers would be able to do that. And also the easiest way to do that is to have a link where someone can buy your album. So an iTunes link, a Bandcamp link, without a link to somewhere where CBC can go purchase your music to play it, they can't do that. So you need to have it available.
Yeah,
which makes sense.
That's just in the trunk of your car.
Yeah, exactly. And sending in CDs it's a digital age. You're going to have a lot more luck, I feel like, with an email and a link.
Yeah.
So what about social media? Like the scourge of the modern world. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. What do you guys participate in?
We use all those. I have a rule that I don't use anything that I can't keep up to date because it doesn't look good to have like a really old Reverb Nation page with like 10 songs from my bedroom in Halifax or something. So I try to keep just what I can manage. And I don't know, I have phases where I'll be really like updating regularly. And then there'll be kind of times where I'm like, I don't know, I just sort of take a step back for a while and people aren't expecting to hear from me every day. You know, it's fine. Like their life is going to keep going on. Like if I don't have anything to share.
Well, if you're trying to promote an appearance or something, of course.
Yeah. I always try and have something going on at the same time. Like I do try and make it look like I'm not dead, so I'll try and I'm always still gigging. So I've always got something to promote that way. My custom songs kind of throughout the year, I can kind of push that or collaborations with other artists. But I mean, everyone has a different approach to social media and people use it in varying degrees. I am not extreme at all, but I'm definitely still a regular user of it. I know Mike's kind of got a different.
Yeah.
I'm not, I like social media. I think it's important to have, a profile on all the major platforms. If you're an artist, you should have a Twitter, you should have an Instagram account. I don't focus a whole lot on it, but that's mostly just because I'm not great at it. So I try to spend my time on things that I'm good at. Crissi's really good at it, I think. I feel like her personality and style really shines through. Mm-hmm. I'm so apprehensive about sharing my personality online. I'll just share a poster or an album cover.
Step in the shadows.
Yeah, I'm more comfortable being a little more private, but that just makes it harder for me. That just means that I have to work extra hard on the music and other things to draw people in, rather than using social media. But hey, if you're great at that, it's definitely helping, it's definitely a huge advantage if you're good at it.
I know, and that's a really good point, because I have to say, your social media is crafted. You clearly have developed a bit of celebrity. I mean, you can just, see the way the likes come in, which is wonderful. But, sometimes I find that I don't know, some celebrities, it's great. They're famous, but their social media is just like pants. I mean, it just really is. It's just, and that was a British word, by the way, but it's really just, I mean, it's like, could you not come up with anything better?
Right.
Yours doesn't have that. I mean,
thank you.
And I guess that's exactly as Mike said. I mean, you can see why he's your producer, and maybe it's like he's spotted that and say, he definitely does a good job.
Yeah, no, I mean, some people, they just have like weird automatic stuff set up and it'll just be like next show alert or something. It's really impersonal and it's just links to things like, I don't know. I try to make it clear that like I am a person and I am writing a thing. Like there's no like third person. I'm not a robot or something,
It's true interaction.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So tell us about the songs on demand, because that's an exciting thing.
Different, as Mike was saying, different revenue streams.
Yes, that's right.
And so you have the songs, you custom songs.
That's it. So I started doing it on a Valentine's Day in, I think, 2016, because it was the winter, which is always a slow time of year for us. After the holidays, people aren't really going out as much. I think everyone's budget kind of tightens. So we don't have as much gigs, and I was not really sure how we were going to pay rent. So I decided on a whim, I would just do this thing where I would offer to write custom love songs for people for Valentine's Day. And it really took off. So I ended up writing 12 songs and recording them in 10 days. And I decided I would just keep it going ever since. So I write songs all year round for weddings and anniversaries and for, romantic love, or, like from parents to a child or vice versa, like just all kinds of different loves. That keeps me busy.
And this is just through your website, or I
Yeah.
mean, how would people get hold of you if they said, "Hey, Crissi, I would love a custom song for my dog. It's his birthday."
I haven't done a dog yet, but I totally would. That'd be
You've done an animal though, have you not?
Have I? I don't know.
I thought you did a pet.
I think I almost did a cat, but
I almost did.
almost, but I don't think it quite worked out. But it's all on my website. So there's like a big questionnaire that I get people to fill out. It's just like, how did you meet the person? How do you feel when they walk in the room? Do you have any sort of inside jokes or stories that you want to share? And then I kind of go through all of their words, and I sort of pick out the most sort of poetic things that jump out at me, and maybe that'll be the chorus, and then some story of how they met will be in the verses. And
So this sounds like a good exercise. I'm just curious as to whether, does it have any benefit for your own songwriting to be going through this sort of exercise?
Absolutely, because I think sometimes if I wasn't doing this, I might not be writing very much at all. So it's good in that it keeps me sharp. And it's also changed my approach to songwriting, because I used to just sit down with a guitar and just try and write in the air, like just write the music and the words and think of the story all at the same time. And it was just overwhelming. And most of the time I would get a couple of lines or a verse, and then I would just be spent. I'd be like, I don't know where this is going. And I'd put it down and probably wouldn't even finish it, because it's so hard to capture that feeling in the moment, let alone come back to it 2 weeks later and still feel it. So now when I'm doing these songs, I've got a definitive, concrete set of words that I can work with, and there's not really anything beyond that. So it's like a really fun puzzle trying to pick out the song out of someone's answers. And now when I write a song, I tend to do the same thing, where I'll start with like a free writing exercise, and I'll just write anything on the topic, and then I'll come back later and pick out my favorite things, and I'll make the lyrics, and then I come and do the music after. And the music takes me like 10-20 minutes now, rather than just beating my head against the wall for several weeks trying to figure out, where does this go? So it's really streamlined the process for me. And now it's not so scary when I'm thinking, oh, I should probably be writing a song, or this would be a great idea, but I don't know if I can make it happen.
And not to be too legal or anything, but you would maintain the rights to all the material that you write, no matter who it's for. I mean, they get it, but it's still your material. So if you want to perform it, you can.
Yes, that's right. I do have a little copyright legal disclaimer at the bottom of the questionnaire, so people know what they're getting into, that it's still my song. And then
So does that mean they could end up on an album then? I mean, if you wrote another Pretty Words or something?
Yeah. Actually, we've got at least 2 song requests that are on the album we're working on right now. And at some point, I want to take my favorites, because I've done about 50 or 60 of them now, and I want to make an album of those, or an EP or some singles. I don't know exactly how I'll put it out. But at some point, I want to release those. So that's why I hold on to the copyright, so that I can reimagine these songs, because when I deliver them, I do a really basic recording that's just guitar and vocal. And then when we picked the 2 that we wanted to do on my album, now they've got like horns and strings and a full band, and it's like a really fun reimagining of the song. And it feels more like it's my own now.
Do you do anything like that? I mean, you mentioned how prolific you are.
So I don't do any custom songwriting, but I've done a lot of writing for people, in a sense of the Walkervilles I wasn't the lead singer of. So I was writing material that was going to be sung by someone else. And I'm still pursuing things like that. I've written some songs that Crissi's performed. She hasn't recorded any, but I could see Crissi being a voice for some of my songs as well. As well as I've just started working more with Rochelle Day. She's a singer in the Family Soul. And I think she's super talented, has a ton of star power. And I just think that if she had a couple of her own songs to sing, she'd be on her way. So we'll try to help her out as well. And it's just something we like doing. It's like a gift we just want to give it.
Do you see more of a future in production? I mean, you obviously, you're getting lots of great experience now with the CBC. You're starting to build, I don't know what you call it, the Cochrane Hargreaves hub or whatever it is. But I mean, do you eventually see that maybe you'll do more production work?
I'd love to be recording more. Like recently, I've been having a recording session every other day, and I'd love to just keep that up for the rest of my life. I just love it so much. I love putting microphones in front of things and plugging them in. I'm sure Gary knows what I'm talking about.
So is there, in the house, this new house, is there a studio in there somewhere?
There's a basement, so you better believe there's a studio. Yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff up on the walls to deaden the sound down there, and we've already been recording drums and horns and vocals, and everything's just been sounding really, really good, and it's just been so much fun. It's there's a learning curve to learning how to record and produce, but at the same time, I feel like I'm getting into it at a time when technology is on my side.
For sure.
I just ordered 2 microphones for $60 that are rated 5-star. Like there's just equipment out there.
I probably have those.
Yeah, there's equipment out there that's rated really well that does a really good job. That's not expensive, so it makes for us to have a home studio and to record ourselves, it makes it a lot easier to get those essential pieces of equipment without breaking the bank like maybe it used to.
Yeah, for sure.
We were realizing that we were spending a lot more going to a studio for a week when that same amount of money we'd spend for 1 week, we could have purchased almost an entire studio for ourselves for the same amount of money and then produce unlimited albums rather than being just limited to whatever you can get out of yourself in a week.
Yeah. We had Dale Butler in here, and he's done his last 2 albums at home with a small recorder, actually the same recorder we're using right now. And he's got it down. He knows how to do it. He brings it to me and I do the mixing and mastering, but he knows how to record it. And it's works out really well for him. And it gives him a lot of freedom. He can record when he wants, and he's multi-talented with a lot of different instruments. So he does it all himself, and he's enjoying it. I guess that's a really important thing too.
The best vocal recording session I've ever had was at my house 3 weeks ago, just recording myself in my own home, a little glass of scotch beside me and a tea and whatever I need, just to, if I need to take a break, I can, or that freedom and comfort, it makes the recording, what you're recording even sound better for sure.
Well, and I guess also the fact that you can feel ready to do it. You mentioned before, I mean, $1,000 a day in the studio and you're not at the right, it just doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And you're
Had
screwed.
too big of a breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
I do that with editing. It's I know I have some editing to do, but it's I don't feel like doing it today. I'm just not in the groove. And then the next day you go, okay, I'm going to do it. And you get down there and you kick it all out. Mm-hmm. It just makes it so much easier, convenient.
Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about gigs. I mean, mostly you're gigging around the Windsor area now because obviously family. Mm-hmm. Do you see that changing as, your daughter grows older? I mean, we don't know how big the brood's going to be.
Right. Yeah. Well, we've never, in the last couple of years, we haven't really been on the road very much. I mean, certainly when you were in Michoud and the Walkervilles was constantly on the road. And I think maybe you got kind of enough of it for a little while.
The hotels don't look so different that I want to go back.
Right.
Trying to remember what town you're in, right?
So does that just not appeal at the moment?
It's something where I could see us maybe doing it again at some point in time. Yeah. But we're also very fortunate that Windsor provides enough opportunity that we're able to keep busy here without having to do that. And then we get to sleep in our own bed at night and, make our own food, which is a lot healthier than what food's on the Trans-Canada.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as gigs are concerned, you're typically playing places that you've played before. I mean, do you have to keep reminding venues that you're available, or is it got to the point where they'll call you and say, hey, how about coming back? Is that the way it works?
A little bit of both. Yeah, some places you realize, oh, gee, I haven't been there in a while. I should call and see if I can book a couple of dates. Or there's other places that are just yeah, come back. I mean, I feel like we're always playing new places partly because a lot of the restaurants and bars in Windsor kind of change over quite a lot, where sometimes they'll start out offering music and then maybe they won't anymore. So it's always changing. But like Mike said, it's great that there's enough opportunity here in Windsor that we can sustain our careers and keep the roof over our head without really having to do a whole lot of travel. which is nice because I find travel very stressful and actually not really all that lucrative. To me, if we're going on the road, I'm going to look at it more like a tourcation where it's like we're going to kind of think of it as a vacation and do some sightseeing, and because you're spending a lot of money. I mean, you're making a lot of personal connections with people out there. And I think that's more of what it's about, is just getting exposure for your music and playing to new people. But I don't really look at it as much of a money-making endeavor unless you're at a certain level in your career where you're playing really big rooms and you're getting good guarantees and you can afford the hotel at the end of the night.
Or you've really figured out a way to, to streamline your production to be really cost effective. Like you're going in a van by yourself where you can sleep in the van and all of that, where you've cut every quarter you can.
We know somebody who just did that too.
Bring a bunch of canned goods and a little propane burner.
Yeah, I feel like you gotta be like young to do that. Now I'm at this point where I'm like, I want to sleep in my own bed. I don't want to eat the canned food out of the little stove in the parking lot at the Berwick Fire Hall anymore. Like, I'm good.
But what about the venues you work with now, like new venues? Do you find that are there many venues that don't expect you to get paid much?
Sometimes.
For performing?
Yeah, but in that case, we usually don't end up playing there.
Okay. So, I mean, now you're confident enough, if they're, because, it's still an issue where, people expect musicians to play for free, even though other people get paid.
Yeah. Well, it always depends on the type of gig too. Like, I feel like a corporate gig, obviously, would you charge a little bit more for that versus like a restaurant that probably isn't making quite that much money in the hour or two that you're there playing. So I always kind of just look at what the context is and kind of come up with something that feels fair based on that. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, it's not minimum wage that I'm making, so it's not too bad, really. Yeah. So I don't.
But you must be just about due for a trip back east.
It has been a while. God, I remember.
And I'm sure when you go back there, everybody remembers Crissi and, she's done very well. And I think I see your dad post a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
well, every time we go out east, we try and book a show. I mean, if we're going somewhere, we usually try and capitalize on that and say, hey, might as well, while we're in the area, play a show. Mm-hmm. And then everything's a write-off.
Business expense.
Right? Yeah.
Nice.
So it's been great to have you join us. We have this little thing we call Round the Table, don't we, Gary?
Yeah, we're going to end up with doing a little bit of fun stuff.
Cool.
Get to the right page. We have like 4 questions. Some are either or, some are just give us an answer. So first question is going to be...
Was this for both of us?
We'll get to both of you.
Oh, okay.
So first question, and we'll go to you first, Mike.
Okay.
Favorite day of the week and why?
Favorite day of the week and why? I'm gonna go with Monday. Wow. I know. I know. Okay. It's really funny. Because it's funny as a musician with weekends. I find like people really unplug over the weekend, and I'm just so ready to plug back in. I'm always itching for like the news to come back. Like a lot of news cycle. I'm addicted to the news. So I really like Monday. Monday's like the news day. It's like, okay, what's happening this week? Kind of, I like that.
That makes sense.
That's a good day for me.
Yeah, Monday is always the day too that I like jump into stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to like get back to work again. Let's go. Yeah. No, I was going to say Friday though. That's my favorite day of the week. Because even though I haven't worked a day job in many years, I still feel like I'm stuck in that mentality where Friday's just like a holy day where like the weekend is coming and there's like so much promise. It's like you could do anything with your day. Friday, that's my day.
How about you, Jan?
Well, I was going to say I'm a bit like Maggie Smith or the Dowager Countess in Downton Abbey because, people say, well, what do you looking forward to the weekend? And I would say, well, what's a weekend? Because, these days I just do radio. So pretty much my 7 days are the same. I probably would pick Thursday as my favorite day because usually that's the day I've put my radio show to bed. And I always feel really great after that. So, and then Friday is kind of a chill day. And then usually by the weekend, I'm starting to go again. Got to start thinking about, what interviews am I going to get done for next week? So I'd probably pick Thursday. What about you, Gary?
I actually have to go with Monday currently because I work a full-time job weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And Monday is kind of like it's my weekend. Now, mind you, it's a 4-day weekend, but but that's, it's a relaxing day.
Yeah. So
The next question, Jan.
Best performance you've ever had?
Oh, geez, I don't know. There's like 400 shows that I have. I've kept a big list of all the shows I've ever played. I don't know. I had a really good time at my Christmas show, actually, in December. It was the day after we moved. And I didn't know if it was going to be a good show or not. And it was just cathartic, just playing and feeling like, I still have this in me. I still got this. And like my baby is sleeping in her own bedroom and Christmas is coming. That was a good show. There's probably like some other really good ones there, but that's just like the top of mind, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure you have lots like that. What about you, Mike?
I'm first off shocked that you picked one within the past like 6 to 9 months, because mine's also really recent, which I suppose is a good thing. It's a good omen for our future. My favorite gig was recently with the Family Soul. We opened up for My Son the Hurricane at Walkerville Theater. And I was sick for like 5 days straight before the show. And I hadn't rehearsed for it. And I just wasn't sure if it was going to go awful or if my voice was just going to stop working 2 songs in. And my voice was awesome the whole night. I was so surprised, like better than I even thought I could do. And my banter was good, which is really surprising because usually I don't say anything at shows. I'm awful at banter, but I was, introducing everyone in the band and doing a good job. And I was really surprised. I was like, I can't believe that turned out. And it was like the surprise winner for me. So
you were on a cloud.
I was.
Like a day after that show.
I was like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So if we turn that question round, what would be the best performance you've ever witnessed from somebody else?
I don't know. What about you? Do you know?
Oh, it's tough. That's a really tough.
I'm like, who have I seen? All of a sudden, I'm drawing a blank. We just haven't seen a lot of music.
You don't get to go to many shows,
That's it.
right?
Yeah, it's like I'm not playing.
And when other people are playing and you're opening or the feature, you're not paying attention too much, right?
It's hard not to say Tedeschi Trucks Band for me, because with the Walkervilles, we got to tour with the Tedeschi Trucks Band, and just seeing them, they're such a phenomenal group, especially at the time. Like they had Maurice Mobetta Brown on trumpet, who's now playing with Anderson .Paak, and he's one of my heroes. So getting to see him play was probably the hype for me so far.
It's funny, like I'm still like kind of drawing a blank, but honestly, I think the Walkervilles would be pretty high on my list. Because like when I think about it, like there's a lot of shows I've been to where it kind of makes like the music is so good it almost makes you want to quit. You're like, I'll never be like it. Like I used to get that feeling every time I saw the Walkervilles play, and Pat would rip like some amazing inspired solo, and I'd be like, I do not have that in me. So I think probably just seeing the Walkervilles all the time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Gary. Swedish heavy metal or New Zealand heavy metal?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I'd have to go back to the reunion tour of Yes.
That's funny you said that.
Yeah, I saw that tour twice. Once in the round and once on an outdoor stage. And I don't know. There's just so many talented musicians. I mean, Rick Wakeman on keyboards, and Steve Howe on guitar, Trevor Rabin on guitar, 2 drummers. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I can't agree on the Trevor Ray. I mean, I was out of Yes when, at the... Well,
yeah, I know. Old Yes, new Yes.
For me, I think it could be Split Ends in 19... What are we going to say? That must be 1982, I think, in Edinburgh in the nightclub. On the same night that actually I did see Yes. I went downstairs in the Playhouse and saw Yes when the Buggles joined the band.
The Buggles, yeah.
After I'd bought my tickets. And I love the Buggles. I mean, I was a big Trevor Horn fan and Jeff Downes, but I was mortified at that show. But we went upstairs and saw Split Ends play in the nightclub, and they were just fabulous. That was like... So I would probably put... I mean, there's too many good gigs, but I'm going to call that one today.
Okay. Last question. Aretha Franklin or Alanis Morissette? Who do you pick?
That's way too easy. Aretha for sure. I mean, and it's tough to say that to be. I made it sound a lot easier, but Alanis Morissette, of course. Is it the album Jagged Little Pill? Right, that's the album title.
Oh, yeah.
I listened to that when I was a kid.
Mhm.
I was really young when
And
that came out.
surprisingly, I think that's in the top 20 largest selling albums of history.
It's got to be one of the best Canadian albums of all time.
Yeah.
You know, up there for sure. At the same time, Aretha Franklin, come on.
I know there's no comparison.
But it's funny with of all of her music, I'm not necessarily drawn to all of it, but there's just some of it that's so spectacular. Specifically, I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. That track is tops in my book.
Yeah, I would pick Aretha as well. Although, again, when I was a kid, it would have definitely been Alanis Morissette. I would not have known who Aretha Franklin was, that's for sure. But
Ooh, it's the Windsor connection, the Windsor-Detroit connection, eh?
mm-hmm.
And you should, you guys weren't even, actually, Jan never experienced either the Big 8. When CKLW was big, like the biggest radio station in North America, pushing out like the hits. I mean, they really were the hits. There's a really good documentary. I think you can get it on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's amazing.
Do you remember what it's called?
I think it's just called The History of the Big 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll check that out.
It's really good.
We listen all the time to CKWW. I feel like it's like an echo of that, and then it plays all those old hits, and it's just like an AM station.
Greatest hits of all time.
It's so good.
Do you make jingles? Yes, I am a dad.
No, but they jingle me when I hear them. CKW.
You probably do you think quite possibly that you grew up in the wrong generation? Like if you'd maybe been born 20 years earlier, and do you think that would have been better for your career?
I feel like it would have been better for my career to have been born at a time when the industry had more legs under it. Right now, it's kind of been wiped out and is trying to find itself, which makes it hard for us, but we're okay. At the end of the day, on that topic, I would just say success is whatever you make of it. It's not, so it doesn't really matter. More money, I don't think, would make me any happier per se. Although a couple new microphones.
Right? I always like to refer to that study that said that you can buy happiness up to $70,000 a year. After that, you're not really any happier. I really like the lifestyle that we have now. I think that if I wouldn't want to live in an era where I would become like a super huge star and not be able to buy my own groceries or have like a weird diluted sense of what personal relationships are. Like, I really like the lifestyle that we've got going on.
But then John Mulaney says like he's never seen someone frowning on a ski-doo or whatever,
That's true.
There's a part of you that goes, who knows.
Well, that's it for this edition of The Business of Music. You can find me online at folkrootsradio.com.
And you can find me at quantumsoundproductions.ca.
And Crissi and Mike, we always have one question that we hold to the end. What would be the best piece of advice you can give someone starting out in music and hoping to make it their career?
It's hard to boil it down to one thing. Don't quit. The longer that you stay in the game, the better chance you have of making it. So many people I know are great and they quit. So I'd say stay in the game.
I'd say listen to yourself. You know what you like. Trust your own instincts in terms of what you like and what you don't like. Don't let other people tell you what's cool and what's good. You have to decide that for yourself, and that's what makes it so fun. But that's what I would just say is just like trust your gut. If you think something sounds great, then it probably is.
Good advice.
Good advice.
Well, remember, you can subscribe on YouTube, ring the bell for notifications. The podcast's available on SoundCloud and wherever podcasts are downloadable.
And that's it. Crissi Cochrane, Mike Hargreaves. I'm Jan Hall with Gary Glass. Join us next time as we try and work our way through a rapidly changing business environment on The Business of Music.